today we're going to be going over adding and subtracting fractions. Now basically, if you don't already know, a fraction is a part of a whole. So something like 3/8, that would be a fraction. A good visual representation is, let's say you have a pizza with 8 slices. 3/8 could be used to represent 3 of those 8 slices. So now let's get into adding and subtracting these fractions. So let's say we were given the problem 3/7 plus 2/7, and we need to add those together here. Let me just erase this. 3/7 plus 2/7. Now, we cannot add or subtract fractions if their denominators are different. In this case, our denominator or our bottom number, this bottom number right here, in this case, they are the same. So we can add or subtract these fractions. But if they were different, let's say we were given the problem 3/7 plus 1/8, if we were different, we could not add these fractions right away. We'd have to make our denominators equal to one another. In this case, we have our denominators the same, so we can add them. And adding them is actually going to be quite simple. What we're going to do is we are going to keep the denominator, or once again, the bottom number, we are going to keep it the same, keep the 7, and we are going to add our numerators. Since we're adding, we are going to add our numerators at these top numbers. The numerator is the top number of fraction. We are going to add them to get 5/7. So 3/7 plus 2/7 is the 5/7. We do not add 7 plus 7 to get 14. That would be incorrect. We add 3/7 plus 2/7 to get 5/7. Now let's move on to subtracting fractions with the same denominator. Essentially the same thing, except we're subtracting instead of adding. Let's say we were given 4/8 minus 3/8. We are going to keep our denominator or our bottom number the same. So this is going to stay the same as 8. But we are going to subtract our top numbers, or our numerators, to get 1/8. So 4/8 minus 3/8 is equal to 1/8. Now that we know how to add and subtract fractions with common denominators, let's see if we can add or subtract fractions with different denominators. So let's say we were given the problem, 1/2 minus 1/8. Now, I know we cannot subtract this right away because the denominators, they are different. They are 2 and 8. They are totally different. So the way we are going to go about subtracting these two fractions is we are going to find the least common multiple of our two denominators. The least common multiple of 2 and 8. And basically what the least common multiple is if we list a number's multiples, and a number's multiples like 2 is basically just 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on. That's what a number's multiples is. So these are the number 2's multiples, and the number's 8 multiples would be 8, 16, 24, 32, so on. Okay, so we are going to look at these two numbers' multiples. We are going to see which multiples they share. And we are going to find the smallest multiple that these two numbers share. And that is what the least common multiple is. So when I look at these multiples, I see that they share 8 and 8. These are the two multiples that 2 and 8 share. And this is the smallest number I could find that they share. So now I know that the least common multiple of 2 and 8 is 8. And what we're going to do is we are going to set our two denominators, we are going to set them equal to 8. We want them to equal our least common multiple, our LCM, which is 8. Now, in this case, for the second fraction, this one right here, we already have a denominator of 8. So thankfully, we have nothing to worry about. However, in our first fraction, the 1/2, we do not have our denominator equal to 8. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set 1/2 equal to a mystery fraction that has a denominator of 8. So we are going to set these 1/2 equal to a fraction with a denominator of 8 because we want to get our denominators equal to the least common multiple. And the way we're going to find this question mark right here is we are going to look at the transition from 2 to 8. What do you multiply by 2 to get 8? You multiply 4. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8. Now we need to do the same thing with this top numerator number. We also need to multiply that by 4. So we are going to multiply 1/2, both the top and the bottom, by 4. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8. So that's how we get that. And 1 times 4 is equal to 4. So now we know 1/2 is equal to 4/8. They're essentially the same thing, 1/2 and 4/8. So now we can set our 1/2 right here. We can set it equal to 4/8. So now we have a common denominator, 8 and 8. So now we can easily subtract. So now we know that 1/2 minus 1/8, that's how we found the answer to be 3/8. So that is how you are going to subtract. That is how you are going to subtract two fractions that have different denominators. Now, with addition, adding two fractions that have different denominators, it's essentially the same thing as subtraction. So let's say we were given a problem that said 1/3 plus 1/2. Now, these two numbers, their denominators are different. These two fractions have different denominators. They have 3 and 2. So I know that we cannot add these fractions right away. So what we're going to need to do is we need to find the least common multiple, the LCM of 3 and 2. So let's list the multiples of 2 and list the multiples of 3. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on. And 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. So these are the multiples of 2 and 3, and I'm going to find the multiple that they share that is the smallest possible. And what I see when I look at this list, I see a 6 and a 6. So I know that 6 is the least common multiple of the numbers 2 and 3. So I need to set both my denominators to 6. So this needs to become 6 and this needs to become 6. So first let's set 1/3 equal to a mysterious fraction that has a denominator of 6. Now how do we get from 3 to 6? We multiply 3 by 2. And whatever we do to the bottom, we're going to do to the top. So 3 times 2 is equal to 6. 1 times 2. There we go. 1 times 2 is equal to 2. So I know that 1/3 is equal to 2/6. So I can set, in this equation, I can set 1/3 equal to 2/6. Okay, now let's do it with 1/2. Let's set 1/2 equal to a mysterious fraction with a denominator of 6. How do we get from 2 to 6? We multiply 2 by 3. Whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So let's multiply 1 by 3. So now we know that 1/2 is equal to 3/6. So now we can take out 1/2 and put in 3/6. So now we know how to add the fraction with a common denominator. We're going to keep the denominator the same, add our numerators to get 5/6. So 1/3 plus 1/2 is equal to 5/6.